Hi, this is Steve from yourcreativelife.com talking today about theater writer director collaboration. Recently, you saw that I posted a video about TV writer director collaboration, and for theater, it's different. So I figured, even though there's not a lot of theater stuff on this channel, that I would take some time to explain the differences here for those of you who are also writing plays and doing that kind of work, and also working with directors. One of the main things that you should know, and that you probably already do know if you write for theater as well as television, is that television is a medium where the material, once it's written, gets owned by the studio. Or the network in combination with the studio. So the copyright gets turned over to them. And, so for example, a show like Friday Night Lights is owned by NBC Universal. These shows are created for these particular companies and they're owned by a corporate entity as opposed to being owned by the writer, him, her, or themselves. Different in theater. In theater, one of the things that's very interesting is the Dramatists Guild will tell you the Dramatists Guild is basically sort of a support, maybe in some ways, sort of a trade organization, a supportive organization for playwrights. And playwrights cannot unionize. Television writers can unionize and do, but playwrights do not and cannot unionize. And that's because, according to the letter of the law, playwrights are owners, playwrights are management, playwrights are at the top of the food chain of the creation of theater pieces, and they own and govern what happens to those pieces. So for that reason, contracts for theater are definitely packed with language that says that only the material that's written by the writer gets honored, that no producer, no actor, no other person has the right to change those lines or change the plot. It all must come through the writer. And so in that space, the playwright is king in the world of theater. And although we do say that TV is a writer's medium and that writers make TV run, the ownership of those properties belong to those corporate entities, and that's very different from in theater. So the reason I say all that is to say that when you're working on a theater piece, as I do quite often, I'm working on one now. I, created a one-person show that happened recently, and I've written dozens of plays, long and short. The space in the theater space really is all about the possibility, the ownership, the forward momentum driven by the writer. So although directors are in charge certainly of the staging and of directing the actors and choosing costumes and dealing with light and special effects and sound effects and stagecraft and all that stuff, the director definitely is the captain of a particular production, but the play returns to the playwright at the end of the day. The playwright is the parent of this particular piece, and the playwright will live with this piece beyond the current production that a director happens to be directing. So you see where the playwright, again, is the owner. It comes back to him, her, or them. And so therefore, it's important in the collaboration space with a director that a playwright be exercising some sense of leadership, I guess I want to say. And so because of that, it is important at the very beginning of any process, whether you're doing a reading, whether you're doing certainly a theater piece of some kind, short or long runs, that you should, as a writer, as a playwright, establish some ground rules with the director. You want to know that, and you want to have the access to communicate freely with the director about the intention of the piece, about what the scenes mean, about what the lines mean, about, what the energy and the creation and the space of all of that is and does and means. And that's really important and different from, again, in the space of TV, where you'll communicate some of those things, but ultimately it's going to be up to some other people to realize it or create it because they are going to be the owners of it. Here, this is like, again, your baby. So it's great to establish those rules. And some of those things go like this. If you're having rehearsals, will the director and the playwright both be speaking to the actors? Or will the director want the playwright to just whisper into his, her, or their ear and say, here's what I'm interested in, can you have this happen? There are all sorts of ways to do this. There are some playwrights who direct their own work And if you're working with a director, you want to establish ground rules. You also want to take some time to meet with the director separately so that the director knows what your vision, inspiration, and intentions are for the play. It may or may not be clear on the page about everything that you know about the play since you raised it and you are the parent of this piece. And it's important that you communicate those things that may, that perhaps are there, but that might come out in the more time the director spends with the play. You want to create as many shortcuts as possible to their understanding of your inspiration and intentions for the piece. And then once you've done that, there may be other things you want to chime in on depending on the level of the production. You might have some sense about costumes and you might want to talk to costume directors and those sorts of things. And you might then want to be in some of those meetings that the director may have for a particular production. You may have thoughts. So it's important to both be aware of how much for you and for your process you want to be in the creation of a particular new production and what you want to leave to the director after an initial conversation that you might have. And those things change in all the time, depending on who the director is, whether you're friends, whether you know each other, whether you don't know each other, whether the director is collaborative, all of that stuff. And so I think that it's important to establish those ground rules and to be really clear about what it is you want, hear what it is that the director wants, and come with some sort of agreement, some sort of agreement around this particular play, this particular piece, so that as you go into the rehearsal process and production and previews and notes, what is the process and how will you collaborate with this particular director? What do you want out of him, her, or them? What do you want? What do they want out of you? And how can you lean into that process so that your child, your baby, gets the best treatment possible? And I will say that I've had instances, and you may have too, or you will, if you don't have those conversations, you certainly end up butting heads later on. Again, very different from TV butting heads where some corporate entity may be the tiebreaker. In this instance, you as the parent, it's really important that you get what you want, not in a selfish way, not in a like, I want to do everything way, but in a way that actually speaks to your desires, your artistic focus in the process. So that's essentially it. Those are some of the things you want to think about as you go into production on a theater piece with a director. I'm wishing you the best on that, collaborative, communicative, and clear about what it is you want for your baby, and to be there as much as you can, as much as the collaboration allows, as much as you agree upon, to make sure that those things get realized. Take a look at yourcreativelife.com, which is the website for all things coaching for TV, film, screenwriting, any writing adventure that is dramatic. We cover that, and we can help you. I can help you bring your writing to another level, whether it's about actually showing up on the page, dealing with agents, dealing with managers, networking, getting productions, producing yourself. All of those are the kinds of things that I help people with all the time and have since 2008. And all of that can be found at yourcreativelife.com. You can subscribe to my monthly newsletter, subscribe to this channel where you can see a brand new video every single week about the writing life, and listen to the Secret Writer podcast, which has a lot of great information in it too. Thanks for watching. See you next time.